Well, all the hope theories and speculations have been made, and it's finally here. So let's talk about The Last Jedi. Star Wars The Last Jedi, or Star Wars Episode 8, whatever you prefer to call it, is the next film within this new trilogy of Star Wars films we have received, this one directed by Rian Johnson. And from the ashes of the defeat that the First Order suffered in The Force Awakens, they have risen up and they are going after the Resistance with a vengeance. And they will not stop until every last man, woman, and child in the Resistance is killed. And at this exact same time, Snoke and Kylo Ren are gearing up so they can try to find Rey, so she can eventually lead them to Luke Skywalker, and Rey at this time we know has found Luke Skywalker and is trying to get him to come back to the rebellion to get back in the fight. Only thing is, Luke isn't the former Jedi he once was. In fact, Luke believes that the Jedi need to end. And let me tell you everybody, this film, it's something else. Rian Johnson has done something masterful here. He's done many great films. I love Looper, I love Brick, but the fact of the matter is, I believe that The Last Jedi might just be Rian Johnson's best work to date. And I'm not just saying that as a Star Wars fanboy. The fact of the matter is, there has not been a single sci-fi film that has made me think and look over every little detail that was in the movie itself since probably Blade Runner 2049. And for those of you that are worried, you shouldn't be. I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys, although this review might seem a little vague because of it, but if I'm going to start my praises for this movie, let's go straight for the throat and talk about Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill. We know that these two actors are really good. We love them in the original Star Wars trilogy. We know they have work of their own that is really, really good, but the fact of the matter is, this might be the best performance I have seen from either of these two. Of course, we know that it was during this time period when they were filming The Last Jedi that Carrie Fisher sadly passed away. But with that in mind, the amount of work that she puts into this movie is outstanding. It is the Princess Leia that we know from the original trilogy, that strong female general inside of the Resistance. But she's grown, she's gone through a lot, she's had a really tough life. And it was great to see Carrie Fisher's performance reflect that in General Organa. However, if I'm going to talk performance that knocked it out of the park, it's Mark Hamill. Guys, I cannot stress enough how great Mark Hamill was in this film. This performance, will it get nominated for an Oscar or not? I have no idea. But in my opinion, it should be. The amount of deaths that Mark Hamill takes the character of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi is something I wasn't expecting to see, and it's something I was so blown away by. And when we finally get to see Luke Skywalker on screen after all this time, we knew that he was going to be in pain and he was going to be regretting everything, but I don't think anyone can predict how deep those layers would go. And amongst, because of his performance, there was one moment where my mouth just hit the floor, and then there was another moment where I was just brought to tears. Also, the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren was explored in a really, really unique way that I haven't seen in a lot of Star Wars films, let alone a lot of sci-fi films before. And let's be honest, Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley, out of the new cast members that we've got, they are two of the best. And let me say that Daisy Ridley, her performance as Rey in this movie, besides Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, it might just be my favorite performance in the movie. And since we're going over The Last Jedi, we can't really forget about talking about the First Order or the Resistance, and where they take those two groups in this movie. It's very much like the dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren, to where it was kind of unexpected for me, and the direction that they decided to show these two sides of a war on, I found it very, very interesting. But of course, if there's one thing I have always loved about Star Wars movies, is the symbolism and the metaphors that each one carries. And Rian Johnson, thankfully, has not forgotten about that. There are so many messages and metaphors and lessons to be learned in this beautiful film that for 90% of the movie, my mouth was dropped. And yes, the space combat and the CGI mixed with the practical effects, it all looked amazing and fantastic, particularly on Supreme Leader Snoke. Honestly, the CGI on Snoke is quite frankly some of the best I've ever seen. It looks like real practical effects, like you can just go through the screen and touch him. And as far as I'm concerned, this Star Wars story has some of the most weight and some of the most emotion that I have ever seen in any of the Star Wars films. But if I go any further than that, I'd be stepping on spoiler territory, so I should probably just keep my mouth shut. Alright, I admit I love this movie to death, but it isn't without its flaws. For one thing, there was way too much humor. It's not that the humor they had was bad, I'd say that 70 to 75% of it landed and it was genuinely funny. But then the other 25%, it seemed like they were just edging to see if they could push for more laughs. And it wasn't just me that wasn't laughing, my entire jam-packed filled auditorium. Nobody was laughing at certain jokes. And also, there were a few characters that I feel Rian Johnson should have spent a little bit more time on, but granted, this is a 2.5-hour Star Wars movie, and he's used his time very well. Guys, what it comes down to is that The Last Jedi is a masterpiece. And the reason why I say that, not just as a Star Wars fan, not just as somebody who loves good sci-fi, it's the fact that so much information was given in this movie that I feel to fully get the full experience and get all the message this movie wanted to give, I need to go see this movie 2, 3, 4 more times. Star Wars The Last Jedi has a phenomenal, powerful story, great messages, fantastic character building on what we got in The Force Awakens. Daisy Ridley, Carrie Fisher, and especially Mark Hamill give phenomenal, Oscar-worthy performances in my opinion. Rian Johnson has outdone himself because even though I'll need some time to think on it, right now, Star Wars The Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie by far, and you know that that means Star Wars The Last Jedi is suit worthy. Could you see how clipped my wings were here? But seriously, go see The Last Jedi. Go see it. And as always, it is what you say that matters. So after I had a chance to see The Last Jedi, and what did you think of it? More importantly, since we have The Last Jedi, what is your favorite Star Wars film of all time? Whatever may be on your mind, leave it down below so we can get a conversation started. And if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right there and subscribe and become part of the fray of nerds who love cinema. You all have a fantastic day.